This is a little bit of an impromptu video. I received a package today. I put in an order for a couple of art supplies last Friday, and well, 3 days later, express shipping, it's arrived. Got the text message this morning. Now, it's not going to be anything amazing. It reminds me of one of those memes. What a non-artist thinks $100 will buy compared to what an actual $100 of art supplies would buy. Actually, it's quite a good little meme, that one. But yeah, let's have a look and hopefully a bit of a surprise. So, it's from Senior Art Supplies in Frankston, Victoria, Australia. So very quick, very prompt, and again, let's, I'm just not going to look at it. Now, I've purchased a brush and 2 new watercolour paints from a brand that I have not yet tried. I usually buy most of my, what I have accessible to me that's in a reasonable price range is Daniel Smith watercolours. Just doesn't, yeah, I've tried a couple of Australian brands and I'm just not overly impressed with them, unfortunately. So, Daniel Smith is the brand that I buy. So the brush is also the kind of brush that I have not yet tried, and again, just kind of, you could probably guess what it is now by the shape, quite possibly. A brush that, again, I just love the landscapes some people have been able to achieve using a hake brush. Neef Goat Hake, 45mm, and oh, I'm actually really excited to use this. This is going to be absolutely awesome. So there's number 1, and number 2 is Schmincke, a couple of Schmincke watercolours. Now, these ones are the granulating watercolours. Tundra Orange. Oh, let me get this. So we have a Tundra Orange Special Edition. And Glacier Turquoise. I'm actually really looking forward to using these granulating colours. Now, I'm yet to try any of Daniel Smith's Primatech line but you know what, I don't know. I understand they probably do need to mix some of the natural elements, natural ground minerals in with other pigments to achieve the density of colour. But yeah, there's quite a lot of talk over the last half a year about the fact that they're just not documenting the exact additive or bulk or those enhancing elements to make the pigment a lot brighter on their tubes. Sorry, you wouldn't see any of that. So this is the first time I've actually ever holding a Schmincke watercolour, because I actually cannot get them in the local art store here. Haven't been down to Hobart, as I live in Launceston, Tasmania. Haven't been down to Hobart and to check those art stores, but I think I wouldn't mind giving these a little bit of a go. $100 of art supplies. The problem is I don't have, as you can see, I'll have to get a couple of little pans to sit on the side here, because this one's my quinacridone cold Every the other colour is, yeah, I use quite extensively, but this blue, I do love this blue, the Prussian blue, but it is quite staining. I have the phthalo. I love the phthalo only for its mixing capabilities. This one here, yeah, I'm in two minds about with the Prussian, but I think I still might keep it there and just have these in separate palettes, little, yeah, half pans. But, ooh, let's have a look. Wow. Let's have a look. In the Tundra, orange. Oh no, just wants to keep coming out. I love the lids of these. They're actually really quite good to hold, the lids of these Schmincke tubes, 15mm tubes. Nice and big. Now to track down a little bit of watercolour paper. Spin that around. I won't use my hake brush, but I'm actually really looking forward to this. The brush is a bit dirty. My water's a little bit dirty as well, but you know what? That'll do. Doesn't matter. Let's put a little bit more light onto that. It's actually a really quite nice light brown. So you can start to see the granulation occurring now, which is actually really quite nice. And if I match that with, actually, the thing that I probably got closest to, the only thing that's probably close on my palette would be the raw sienna. And you can look at the richness of the raw sienna. It's just that dulled down brown. I like it. And there's my burnt sienna. So I think there's actually it's kind of a mix between the two. That granulation, I can see it. It's pretty. I love granulating colours. And I achieve a lot of it using my French ultramarine. But beautiful. Alright, now the glacier blue. Let's get a little bit on there. And the glacier blue, actually really quite a nice sea blue. That's alright. So, just wanting to just do a bit more tone in there. And when I have that side by side to my cerulean blue chromium, my French ultramarine there. Actually, I'm happy with that. That looks really nice. So now what you're going to be watching me do is use these colours along with others to paint a picture. Now this picture is from a monthly challenge, and it's from the Tony White Watercolour community Facebook page. Now I thought I'd record the process, especially seeing as I was using the new paints as well as the Hake brush to begin with. Now probably a little bit out of my comfort zone, so I stopped using it halfway through once I got the main wash on and reverted to my mop brush to do the majority of the work. A lot of the painting is done wet in wet, especially with the sea and the way I wanted the waves to smash over the rocks. So yes, let's have a look and see how this was done. So I'm just putting in the pencil lines now just to get the basic shape of the composition. Now I didn't want to copy the image too much. I definitely wanted to utilize the rock features in the ocean in the foreground, but I really wanted to dramatize the ocean around it. So really wanted to use the best feature of watercolor and have it flow in using the wet and wet technique. Now I've kept the picture quite loose in terms of the sketch. Again, very basic rock formation. A lot of that would come out when I apply the greys. So this is my first attempt at using a Hake brush, and I'll be getting a little bit more practice with that. So yeah, just sort of starting with a little bit of, if I remember correctly, cerulean blue for the sky and yellow ochre to really warm, to keep the landscape quite warm. Probably could have gotten in probably even darker still with the blue sky. I was amazed and probably wasn't ready with how much water these Hake brushes actually do hold. So that's going to be something I'm going to have to get used to. Just tidying up the ocean area, ready for when I lay in that wash. Now this is the glacier blue that I'm using. Nice little bit of a more aqua feel, probably not as much of a green tint. Actually, I wouldn't mind something with a little bit more of a greener tint. But I'm actually really quite happy with this pigment. Again, time will tell after I've used it a little bit more. Now just dropping in some French ultramarine just to darken up the distant elements of the ocean. At this point here, I'm just sort of lifting some of the pigment just to replicate whitewash hitting the rocks. I was toying around with adding a little bit of green just to see what that would do. Adding in some darker pigment, French ultramarine, just adding in some French ultramarine, just to, I suppose, add that little bit of contrast for under the wave, making that white stand out a little bit more, the foam. One of the dangers of glazing there is the combination of the blue and the yellow making that greenish tinge, but no, that's not an issue at all in this instance. Going in with some pretty strong yellow ochre here and some quinacridone red. Wanting to maintain and help with that perspective a little bit too as well, so I'm just sort of making sure my brush strokes are curved, so that if there is anything that does stand out, it kind of leads the eye slightly. In this case, it probably didn't really do anything, but now I forgot to hit record when I painted in the back mountains. I actually completely nearly ruined the whole picture with those mountains. Just not timing the washes correctly of when I'm wanting to do the lifts, and not cleaning my brush appropriately either. It meant that it got into the sky, and yeah, nearly made a complete mess of it. I'm not overly happy with them, but I'm just leaving them as is and I'm not touching them. And yeah, just I don't want to overwork them anymore, which you don't want to do with distant objects that you're wanting to keep very simple, lacking detail. Just a bit more contrast under the waves, just to hopefully really bring those out. Just adding some texture to the beach, just a bit of dry brush work there. You know, just like one of my previous paintings, you was going to see something. It's one of those things I just need to get better at. Drawing figures, people. My first attempt didn't go so well. Completely made the head too big. There we go. No, wasn't happy with that. I'm lucky that smudge kind of blends in with some of the other marks that I left on the beach. Kind of visualised a couple walking hand in hand. I think from quite a distance I think it works okay. Adding a couple of birds into the distance there as well. Now this was really quite late at night, so I kind of left it there thinking that I was finished. Went ahead, signed, took a photo, and again, you know, leaving pictures for the following day, you kind of pick up on things. And I ended up going back in and adding a little bit more to the foreground. Firstly through the rocks that are in the ocean, and via some splash rings. So what I'm doing is just adding a little bit more water to the page, just to allow the spattering that I apply just to be quite soft. Now using the tundra orange there, heading in with some just a grey that I mixed up, just that was already on my palette, and a little bit of quinacridone gold there, just to lighten it up in places. I was a little bit worried about the way the wave was breaking over those rocks. It kind of didn't match the height of the rock to the left hand side, so I've just sort of wanted to add a little bit more contrast and height to that, just to I suppose to give the effect that that wave's having to come up and over it, which I think's done quite well there. So in the end, I'm actually really quite happy with how this turned out. Really trying to work on my paintings in more of a simplistic nature. Very much more of an impressionistic style that I'm wanting to go for. So again, this is the image which, yeah, again, quite happy with.
it'll be a keeper for me. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.